Hi and welcome to Living Fortified. My name is Tamás Finta. Living life to the fullest after 40 is an amazing adventure, and Living Fortified is here to be your guide. This is a show for you if you want to learn more about how to feel your absolute best physically and mentally. In each episode, we'll be chatting to experts about health, fitness, and wellness for mature adults. We'll find ways for you to move and feel better, stronger, and live a life that is truly fulfilling. Please hit and subscribe, and let's get Living Fortified together. My first guest in this brand new series is Karin Monir, who I have known for several years now.
It's been a while.
Yeah, we've been doing some training together and been talking about many things in relation to health, mental health, and so on. So, Karin, please introduce yourself and tell us about your background.
Yeah, so my background is a little bit of a varied one. So these days I go as a well-being specialist because I'm really interested in holistic health. That includes what we conceptualize as mental health. But of course, also mental health can't be without physical health. We can't have one without the other. And I am a little bit of a geek around the brain. So I apply the brain and nervous system study to what it means to be healthy, whether that is to an individual, because I have a little kind of practice where I see people for more therapeutic stuff. But the bigger part of my business is actually to apply that to bigger systems such as businesses, organizations, where we look at, so how can we apply some of the really kicking findings from neuroscience to enhance people's well-being and longevity in the workplace. So it's a little bit exciting.
So our topic today is one of the very important ones and one of the most discussed ones, motivation. Everyone knows what the word motivation means.
Or do we?
Most of us, including me, understand very little about what actually happens in the brain when you feel motivated. So can you talk about what motivation is and where it comes from?
Yeah. So first of all, motivation, I'm a little bit also of a geek around words. It's a very generic term. Yeah, it comes from Latin, motivatus causa, and that means anything that gets us into action and movement. So it's a very generic term, right? And if we think about different things in life, there's lots of things that can get us into action and movement. However, when we actually look at the brain and the nervous system, we need to look a little bit deeper because not all motivations are created equal. So for example, in the practice that we offer in my business, we look at something that we call true north motivation because it is a very healthy motivation that is in alignment with who we are, that is really in alignment with our core values. It has a compassionate approach, and what actually then happens in the nervous system is pretty fascinating. Not only is the nervous system set to safety, because nervous system has this switch, where it goes to safe, and we really want that in life because that means we're kind of closer to health. And what also happens is, if we kind of get that right, we kind of hit an energy source that kind of also gets us into sustainable motivation.
Right.
So it's a fascinating place in the nervous system. There's wonderful people in this neuroscience field that have looked at that and have given it names. For example, one of them, I'm a huge fan of Dan Siegel's, calls it the plane of possibilities. Yeah, where we have this kind of space, we could go into all these different things. We're not constrained by preconceived notions, and we're also in a space that energizes us.
Right.
Sounds pretty good, right?
It sounds right. Yeah, it's very exciting, but I can't help but notice the word you used. You said healthy
motivation.
So why did you distinguish between healthy and is there an unhealthy version?
Of course there is, because as humans we're complicated, right? So we can have this healthy motivation. It's a very integrative one, energizing, healthy for our nervous system. But like the word suggests, motivating things can be anything outside us and inside us. And of course, a big motivating factor that as humans we have are certain emotional motivators. And when we boil it down to it, any emotion can be a motivator, and especially fear and shame. And that, of course, is a very different gig because this is not necessarily, well, it can be an energizing space, but now we're not in a healthy space. Right. Yeah, what we might see on the outside is somebody who's quite committed. Sometimes really committed, actually. Doesn't matter what happens, yeah? So if I can give an example, Yeah, I'm working with this kind of young gentleman, and he tells me, I'm doing this challenge and I'm really motivated around it. Yeah. And he was talking and he was quite excited about it and everything looked okay until he told me this story. And I've got permission to share that, by the way, where he said, oh, I actually broke my elbow the other week. And I said, oh, that's not good, is it? But he had said, I still got my challenge done. And I said, so hold up a second here. You had a broken bone. He actually told me that he had an operation. And yet he was so focused on completing the challenge that before he had the operation, he needed to complete. And I said, but weren't you in pain? He said, yes, I was. So that's, of course, when this little bit of kind of light goes off, right? Going, hold up. Is this healthy motivation or not? Because motivation should also have a kind of quality of flexibility, right? We flow with life, and our motivation can flow, and it can also mean sometimes it's like, well, I'm in pain, I've had an injury, maybe now I need to take it easy and let myself be nourished and care for myself in different ways, not to push so that I can be healthy. Yeah?
Could it be because then the person feels like they fail?
Absolutely, it can be. And of course, then the question for that is, so I asked the person, what would happen if you hadn't done it? And he went, that would not have been good. And that's when this kind of sense came up. I would have felt like a failure, not good enough. Yeah, or some people might say, that would be scary. I don't like it. I'm worried that I'm not going to get back up, or I'm worried that something is going to happen. And that then unmasks a little bit and going, hold up, we are not in healthy motivation here. We need to kind of get curious about that and see what it can help. You know, what can help the person to get into a healthy motivation. Because whereas these kind of not so healthy motivators, they can be very energizing in the short term. Right? People get this kind of boost of energy. They get really focused into something, but it doesn't do well for sustainability and health.
Very interesting. Yeah. So do you think there are different sources where people get their motivation from? Is it sometimes a previous failure that I'm not going to fail again? I need to show the world, and you know, hopefully they feel like they want to show it more to themselves, not just to the world.
And there's already indicators, right? Who am I showing something to? If I'm motivated about me and my health,
and what are they proving?
Exactly. That's a really good question, right? Is it about I need to show myself something? And I mean, some people just kind of can still be healthy motivation. They're like, I wanted to prove to myself I can do it. And then they get this really kind of, yay, I did it.
And as a coach, I've heard this many times. I wanted to prove it to myself that I can do it. And I never really thought much about that. So you're here. Let's make the best of it. But so can it be a bit dangerous?
Well, it's a good question, right? Because sometimes it's also hard to actually work out what motivation are they coming from. Yeah, because I mean, you have the first encounter with a person, they're rocking up, they're motivated, I want to train, I'm here for it. And yeah, they might also say, I want to prove it to myself. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with proving it to myself. That can be really empowering. But what we should see as people hit a goal is that there's a little bit of an expansion and a growth, right? They're like, cool, I've done that now. They shouldn't then have to go to the next thing straight away, or kind of get hooked into something else straight away, where there's like this kind of thing of, oh, I didn't quite hit the spot. With some people who are not in healthy motivation that have to prove something, i.e. often they're kind of going through shame. Yeah, they will kind of get to that spot and almost be a little bit deflated. There's not that, hey, we did it, I'm so proud of myself, this is awesome. Yep. They're a little bit like, oh, this doesn't feel quite right. Oh, maybe we do another one. Shall we do another one? Let's do something bigger. And maybe that'll hit the spot.
Right.
And they go to the next thing and might even achieve that and get quite into it. And they reach it and they're like, yeah, kind of feels good, they will often say, but I need something else. Or some people will say, it doesn't feel as good as I thought it would. It's not quite hitting the spot. So let's do something else. Right? So it becomes a never-ending cycle of something, because what people are trying to do, they can't have in that way.
Okay.
Yeah. Whereas in a healthy motivation, sometimes it can just be that little bit of a stretch, right? I prove something to myself. Gosh, in the training that I have had with you, how many times have I proven something to myself? I'm like, I didn't think I could do that, and that's a bit cool. Yeah.
Yes.
Doesn't mean I don't want to do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's not that, oh my God, I have to do it straight away, or that kind of feeling that some people get where it's like, I thought this was going to feel great, but somehow it's not hitting the spot. Right? Then there's a little bit of an indicator to go, can we become curious here about what's really going on?
Right.
Yeah, what place in my nervous system am I coming from here? Yeah, if I never feel like it's getting there,
Right.
or I have to repeat it all the time, or I get really stressed or anxious when I don't do it. Yeah, all of these kind of things are maybe indicators to go, hey, am I coming from a healthy place of motivation?
Okay, that's very interesting idea around this. I've never really heard anyone talking about this side of it. Everyone is very excited that we have motivated people. And recently I read an article. It was discussing motivation, how it actually starts to get stronger as we spend time at the gym or whatever activity, because of the chemicals, the neurotransmitters that are released. So it's not some magical thing that's hanging in the air and some people will catch it like a virus or not. It actually takes a few steps forward to get momentum and then start to run.
That is a very specific one that you're talking about here, yeah, because we also need to acknowledge that we don't all start from the same spot. Right? Some people will get motivated actually really fast, and you said it, right? That some people are like, I'm here, crash. I'm here, crash.
Okay.
Right? So we got not healthy motivation. Then there's another state in the nervous system, and that's the one you were talking about, where there's actually quite a low energy state in the nervous system. And people are what's called in a little bit of a collapse. Yeah, if there's any geeks out there, low tone dorsal in the house. Yeah, which is very interesting. And what that means is they might not have the access to these neurotransmitters that you're talking about, to these reward chemicals that straight away make them go like, you know what, I'm up for this, let's do it. In that case, if I can get them into a little bit of movement, just a little bit, even if they're not feeling it in the beginning, right? In that case, you know, I always say to people, in this case, we have to use the head, right? Just in the beginning, let's use the head and go, let's try it out and see how we feel after. Because some people will say, oh, I feel better after. I wasn't feeling it in the beginning.
I hate to admit it. It's so funny.
Yes, absolutely. There's a thing is like,
I didn't think I would like it.
Yeah.
But I feel good.
That actually really resonates.
Somebody said last year.
It worked. And I hate it worked. You know, was what I got told, you know, not loving this, that it actually worked. But it's that basically, you know, it's that nervous system is a bit in the kind of trapped in a low energy state. And people won't kind of get that, oh, that would be a thing, right? That would be nice for me. But as they do it, like you're talking about the reward chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, and actually another one that is underrated, oxytocin. Oh, yeah. It's not necessarily a reward chemical, but still a really important one.
It's a good one.
It's a yummy one. I'm all here for the oxytocin, hey? You know, that's then when this brain chemistry changes and they get a little bit of that, oh, that feels good. Yeah. That doesn't mean the next time it's going to be, yay, I'm here for it. It might still be a little bit of that, oh, let's get there. But what we should see with that, if we do it right, and we might have to do small amounts for people, yeah, in that one, is like, okay, each time they do it, it should get a little bit lighter. And then we go gentle, we go slow, but then, you know, eventually they're like, huh, I'm actually there now and I want to keep doing it. It's almost like their nervous system, not almost like their nervous system actually starts a little bit re-regulating. Right. And they might have a bit more access to that energy that they haven't had before. Right. But in that case, they need to get into a little bit of movement. Yeah, so that's, you know, another thing, and this is a fairly short podcast where we needed to talk about that we all have a different way our nervous system functions. Right? And some of us are more in the accelerator space and some of us have the handbrake on a bit more. Okay. Yeah, and of course that then also affects how we feel in terms of motivation, how energized we feel to do something.
So I'm curious, I've got this question on my mind. If someone finds that they really try, feel like they're trying, it's just not happening.
Right.
Is there anything they can do? Should they seek help from support of friends or family? Or what's the next step? What can they do to break out of this situation?
Yeah, so somebody's stuck, right? Yeah. That's what we're talking about. And clearly something's up because there must be something inside them that really wants something. And it's just not happening for them. Yeah,
the frontal cortex understands that it's necessary to move, or
maybe.
maybe. So just say
Yeah.
brain. So logically they
know it's a good thing for me.
They read the advice, they read books about it. Everyone tells them movement, exercise, super beneficial.
We have all the research.
You should really do it. We have the research. That's not a question.
Yeah.
But it's not
just
enough.
Not happening.
It's not enough. It's an emotional.
Yeah. There is a block
thing.
there, right? And that's the really kind of big one. So stuckness is an invitation to get curious. Right? So a lot of people, when they feel stuck, they get really down on themselves. Right? They get frustrated. They're like, why is it not happening? They start questioning the world. Is this not the right thing? Or they start getting shamey. Why can't I do it? Everybody else can. But what that actually does is it takes away from what we actually need to do, whether we do that on our own, or if it's really stuck and we can't see wood for the trees, then it's probably a really good idea to get another set of eyes and another brain onto it, to go, hang on, let's be curious, what's going on here? Because clearly I understand the concept. I want it. It's something I want in my life. I know it's good for me, and I can't make it happen. Right? So my first step would be, can we kind of sift a little bit through often the noise that's then going on, that's frustration, this, whatever else is going on, and go like, this tells us something. It's like a language from the nervous system that something's up. And if I can switch that into, let's be curious about that and start to notice what's actually going on for me here. What is it that blocks? Right? And not just discounting that it shouldn't be there. It's almost like listening to a voice that says something and goes, I'm not on board with this. Hello. Yeah. Sounds a bit strange, but there is something there. Yeah. Some people can do that really well by themselves. Yeah. They just go like, okay, can I step through this noise and go, what is actually going on? For some people, it will be confusing and confounding. And in that case, it is definitely a good idea to reach out to other people because, you know, we can't see the back of our heads. And they might go like, right? And also, there's a really important space in that, and that's the co-regulation space, because what is also very likely in that moment is that my nervous system is not quite regulated. So the stress levels in my nervous system are not great at the time. And sometimes if I'm confounded, it's all too much, or I'm shutting down, or I'm vaguing out, whatever it is, it tells us our nervous system is not in the zone to process information in the best way it can. So, right. So if I just finish that one, this is where I want then another person, because, you know, our nervous system are also wired to sometimes help each other to go into that zone. Right? So not only do I get another person to give me another set of ears, eyes, and all of this kind of stuff, I'm also getting hopefully a regulated nervous system that helps me. And once I'm in the zone, then hopefully also that fog that some people experience opens up and they can see a bit clearer and go like, oh, that's what might be going on. And then, of course, working on proactive ways of looking at what it takes to overcome that. But regulation, again, is key, hey? Yeah. Sorry, I just kind of railroaded you because I'm getting excited.
I'm glad you finished your train of thoughts. The key word that, again, triggered me, zone. Everyone has been in the zone, hopefully. And we have all been out of the zone. So when we...
Haven't we just?
Whether it's relationship or work or creating something or training. When we're in the zone, nothing is too hard. Everything, lots of little wins. We are riding this wave of success and fulfillment and reward. What happens when we get out of the zone? Something like what I see quite often is someone goes on an extended holiday. Could be anything from 4 weeks to 3 months, and super motivated person. They come here every day. They go away, and just can't get them. Can't get them back to the club. What goes wrong, and how can we undo that wrong?
Well, first of all, so let me start practical. I would talk to the person before they go. So they'd expect what to actually talk through that, right? Is that something that has happened to them before? Because I mean, if it's somebody, usually it's not people's first rodeo, right? Usually people have tried something. And they might tell me if I have that conversation with them and go like, so how has it been in the past? Like, have you tried, in your case, you know, to exercise, for example, and how has that gone? You know, how long have you lasted? If you didn't last, what was it about it? Like, and then having a little bit of a preemptive conversation around that. Yeah, so that I can kind of work out a little bit and go ding, 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 oops, there might be something going on for the person. Can we preempt that? Yeah, because once the person's gone, it's very hard to go and chase them and go like, hi, where have you gone? You have disappeared, right? And often then we learn even when they come back, right? It's like, here is a learning. So it's also not catastrophizing these little things. It's like, okay, we have a new piece of information. So that would be the first thing. And what you said about the zone is a really powerful thing, because we have a zone in our nervous system. Actually, there's multiple ones, right? And there's one that a lot of people call either the window of tolerance. Yeah. It's also the optimal arousal zone. And that's a really kind of powerful zone. Doesn't mean life's perfect, but it means I can deal. Right. And, you know, I said something about that safety switch in the nervous system. That zone is only available when my safety switch is set to safe. Yeah. And then within that zone, so that is still a space, there's even really kind of nice sweet spot, and one of them is called a flow state. Right? And they're now doing some...
When I said zone, I meant flow.
So that's a little bit of a different one. So that means you have to be in the zone, in my safety zone, in my window, whatever we call that. And then there's a sweet spot within that that's called a flow state. And you know, there's now interesting research to go, who has access to that flow state? Not everybody has it. Right. Yeah, so there needs to be actually a nervous system that's in a specific way to allow us to get there. Yeah, so not everybody, unfortunately, has access to it. Some people with a bit of work could get there. Yeah, but that's not accessible just automatically to everybody. Right. But around that sits that kind of zone. Yeah, that is known as the window of tolerance, or, you know, optimal arousal zone, different things, right? And that one I absolutely need to be in, because healthy motivation is also synonymous with that. So my kind of take on that would be somehow that person has fallen out of that zone somehow. Right. How it happened, I don't know. Right? Could it be anything? Has something really stressed them out in that time, or have they fallen back into something? Yeah, something has shifted here. And I'd love to be curious about, what is that? Right? And again, you hear me say that word curiosity again, right? Because often we just have these behaviors, but we don't kind of slow it down sometimes and go, what's actually going on here? Right? I'm doing that every Christmas.
Oh yeah, Christmas is one of those times, right?
Funny time, right? And let's talk about Christmas being a funny time for people, right? Some people, there might be some people who are listening in who love Christmas and go like, yeah, just for the people who are there and who are listening in. Yeah, some people might go Christmas and they have this warm and fuzzy inside them and go like, love it. Yeah, depending on where you're kind of tuning in from, lots of different experiences, but a lot of people will go, warm and fuzzy, it's nice. And some people who are listening in might hear the word Christmas and go, oh,
not their favorite time.
Not at all fuzzy and warm, right? Because for a lot of people, you know, that time can also be really hard. So it's also interesting to go, so certain kind of experiences can change my state in the nervous system, and therefore also change my state of motivation. Right? Our nervous system is in constant flow. It's got its own rhythm. It does its thing. Right? Things like that can change the flow. Right? Whatever that looks like. Right. Yeah, and that means our state is changed, and it might also mean I go like, what gym? I'm not going back there. Not even thinking that. Right? Because it's not might not be a conscious choice. Oh no, I'm not doing that. It might just be something that happens.
It's unlikely that after that they love the gym before holiday and they hate the gym after holiday. It cannot be that simple, right?
Correct. Right? And if that's a thing, how come there was such a big change? Right? Something would have gone on there. Right? So there's that curiosity piece again.
Well, but could be a whole new episode just around that topic. To wrap this up, can you offer my audience maybe 3 practical tips, ideas, if they really would like to see the change, do something about being stuck wherever they're stuck, or trying to avoid being ever stuck? 3 practical tips, please.
Know your zone. That's the first one. Know your baseline, know your zone. Right? Because if I'm not in my zone, and I don't mean the flow state, I mean just in that wider zone, it's not going to happen for me.
So how can we recognize that zone?
Very good question. So practical things, it's about learning a little bit about the nervous system, and it can be as simple as recognizing our nervous system constantly changes. In this, it happened all the time. Right? My heart rate would have changed, throughout the conversation. It happened for you.
Yep.
Our breath would have changed. Tension would have shown up.
A good memory, a good feeling, memory of a good feeling.
Feelings can show up, right? That are nice or not so nice. Getting to know a little bit, This kind of, where is my zone? We don't ask ourselves that question, right? How do I know I'm in my zone? How do I know I'm out of my zone? For a lot of people, it's actually simpler to start with when am I out of my zone, because a lot of people don't like what happens then, because, some people might get a bit grouchy. Yeah. Some people might find they're
Things
not
are off.
thinking it's off, right? Or I don't get motivation. It doesn't feel good.
Okay.
And for a lot of people, it might be that. So that would be one of the kind of big strategies that I would kind of use.
All right,
so that's one. The second one is, it sounds incredibly simple, but baby steps.
Okay.
Right? So
in relation, because we are talking about physical fitness, obviously, and me as a coach and trying to help people become their best version.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
I see how someone was about. So my goal is to be there. It's fine, and it's great. We need to have a long-term goal.
Let's go 4 days a week, and let's lift 100 kilos, and let's do. How about we don't?
So you're saying that sometimes just turn up a couple of times a week. Just do some
turn up
mobility.
Once if that's what it is.
Yep. So anything is better than nothing.
Anything is better than nothing. Yeah. And even, a lot of people are then like, oh, when I've done it once, I need to do it twice straight away. Maybe you just do it once for a little while.
So there's the argument then sometimes, quite often actually, I heard, well, but if I don't go 3-4 times a week for an hour, it's not going to make any difference. It's not worth it.
Right.
It's not enough.
Right.
So and so it's all or nothing.
It's an all or nothing. So here we go about the zone. Right. And of course that there can also be a space, and I'm so hoping that also some of the trainers that are listening in are gonna maybe do a little bit of research on that.
There will be a lot of trainers listening, because trainers get it wrong a lot of the times.
And I mean, we all do.
Because we don't know.
We don't know what we don't know, right? But the minute you have somebody in an all or nothing state, you can safely assume they're not in a healthy motivation.
Sure.
Yeah, because I could explain how that works in the brain. No. So immediately I would go like, oh, that's a bit all or nothing. And I would actually kind of talk a little bit about that and go, so what gets in the way of, going it slower? Because we're here to work up to that.
Mm.
Yeah, but in nervous system terms, sometimes slow is fast and fast is slow.
Yep.
And so in that case, it's like, so what can support the person to maybe start that and then really bring that in for a little while, and then we build to that. And a lot of people will actually find they can get to that 3-4 times a week for an hour. Right, in that slow process, because also their nervous system has stayed in the zone. Right. So baby steps is also about staying in the zone.
So we had second baby steps.
Yeah. So just first one, staying in the
whatever you think is doable.
Recognize your zone and find your way back into it.
Yep.
Do baby steps, and the third one is recognize your reward system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the drive is reward. We do lots of things for reward, whether it's emotional or
absolutely. And if I have a healthy reward, it should feel good, but it should also be something that energizes me more a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
Because some people will go like, yeah, that feels great. Right? You sometimes see sports people doing that, right? They're like, yeah, and their dopamine is going, and they're like,
they live on that thing.
But their body is actually broken down underneath it.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas if we get that healthy reward, we should also feel like that the body is starting, not all the time. Anybody knows what it's like to be sore after gym, right? But there should be that kind of gentle also building of the body, and the body should also kind of grow and strengthen in a way.
Right.
Yeah. So healthy kind of reward system and recognizing that. Very important.
So good. I love all three. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So.
And only because it feels good, it's not healthy. But that's a different story. That is a topic for another podcast.
Well,
not every reward is healthy.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on this very important topic. And if you like what you heard and what you've seen, please hit subscribe and the notification button so you find out when we put up another episode. So thanks very much for being with us, and thanks very much for being here, Karen.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So see you next time.
Bye. See ya.